Gather a crowd, have them choose a card, sign it, place it back on top of the deck, and then watch it float. This is HoverCard Plus. This brand new gimmick allows you to float any signed card, pluck it out of midair, show it on both sides, and then let it float back to the top of the deck. The card never leaves their sight and can be immediately handed out as a souvenir because it is just a card. This new gimmick is so cool, it allows you to use it with any deck of cards that you want so that you can customize it to your own performance style. You can even float other objects with it as well. Now, I've always loved HoverCard. It's been one of my favorite tricks, and now it contains everything that you could ever ask for. It gives you more control and opens the door to new possibilities as well. Lift your card magic to the next level. HoverCard Plus. Hey, Nick from P3 here, and thank you for purchasing HoverCard Plus by Dan Harlan and Nicholas Lawrence. I'm really excited and honored to be able to teach you the ins and outs of the gimmick that you just received. It's been one of my favorite tricks for the past few years. I even used to perform the original way back in the day, so this is really exciting for me. Dan and Nicholas are also going to join us a little bit later in this download, so you can get to hear from them a little bit as well. So let's start this off by taking a nice close look at the gimmick that you received, and then we're going to move on to the routine. Okay, let's take a nice close look at the HoverCard Plus gimmick. This is what you should have received. It's going to be a red bicycle card, but you'll see why this. You can change this to any deck of cards in a little while. I'll show you how to do that. It comes in two pieces. One is this joker. Now this joker has a couple magnets embedded here in the corner. It's not a full shim card. It's just two magnets in the corner there. The reason why it's not a full shim card is because this magnet needs to be going in an exact location. You'll see why a little bit later. That's what hides the levitation action. So we have a magnet up in the corner of this joker. This has been put on a joker for ditching reasons. There's always a reason to take a joker out of the pack as opposed to being a face card. So it's been designed that way so that you have a joker on that side. This piece here has this plastic piece is it's what's called a parallel hinge. The magnets are up here in the corner. This is what lines up with the card there, and then you have this piece here. This is what's going to lever any sign selection out from the top of the deck. I know this looks weird now, but when I put it in the deck of cards, it'll be a lot more clear as to how it actually works. The only thing we need to do to prepare the gimmick is you want to get a roll of double stick tape, and you're just going to take a little piece off here, and you're going to put it right in the center of this rectangle piece here. So that goes right there. All right, and you want to get rid of some of the tackiness, so just, kind of hit it with your finger a few times so it's not as sticky. You don't want it making a ton of noise when you're peeling cards on and off this gimmick, but that's where the sign selection or whatever you're floating is going to be. It's going to be on the top of that. So that's the gimmick. Let's put it in a deck of cards and see how we can use it in a performance. Okay, let me show you where I'm going to place the gimmick so that we can take a look at a card actually levitating. So here's our joker here with the magnets. I like to have it a few cards down in the deck. You know what? I'm going to put it 2 cards down. This does a couple things. It's going to allow us to remove a card later. It makes sense a little later, but also it makes the connection between the magnet here and the magnet on my gimmick card not as tight. So when I pluck this out of the air, it's just a little bit softer. So a couple stray cards, and here is our gimmick right here. So I'm just going to throw those right on top. And then our gimmick sticks to that. Obviously the magnet will go through the stray cards. I'll show you a handling for the performance in a little bit, but just so we can see where we're all at, this card could be signed, selected, you add it to the top of the deck, and again, I'll go through a handling of this in a little bit. The way that this works is gravity, really. There's 2 ways to handle the hover card gimmick. One is up here, the other is down here. We're going to cover this up top handling first here. All that's happening is you're holding the deck in this this low grip here. I have my middle finger and my thumb along the bottom edges of the pack. The magnet is up here in the top right. It's closest to me. And the way that the gimmick works is all you're doing is twisting your wrist, just turning your wrist, and that card will come off the deck. That's just because that's the way that plastic gimmick opens and closes. Now, right now, I just pulled this gimmick right out of the bag. So it's still a little bit tight. This will get broken in the more that you do it, and the card will actually go out even further. I mean, you can see that mine can go all the way out here as well right now, but over time, after you do this just a little bit, it'll float all the way out. Right now, it's still a little got a little bit of bounce to it. So anyway, all you're doing is turning your wrist, and it opens the gimmick, opens and closes the gimmick, just like that. If you're going to do it down here, it's almost the same hand position. You can hold the deck in the middle of the deck, but you have the magnet on the bottom right corner closest to you, and really all you're doing is just tilting the deck forward, and the card will levitate off the pack. Now, as you remember, this magnet here, this is a magnetic hinge, so you can pluck this out of the air, right? And to do that, what you want to do is grab onto the actual square gimmick piece here. You don't want to grab just the card because that'll peel the card off the gimmick, but if you grab the gimmick, you can pop that right off in midair. Now you're in a position where you can show both sides, which is fairly simple. I mean, you don't have to do a full turnover. You could simply just do one of, just kind of open your hands up a little bit like that. Watch this. So you pluck the gimmick off, and I'll show you from here. My hand is just going to rotate around the card and hide the gimmick in my hand. So these fingers come around and hide the gimmick there. So I'll do it straight on so you guys can see. It floats out, pluck the card out of midair, and you can place it back in midair. Let the card float back to the top of the deck, just reverse the same actions that you used in floating it off, and then you can remove the gimmick, remove the card from the gimmick just by simply peeling it off the double stick tape. You might be able to hear that on the microphone. That's why you want to take off some of that tackiness. So that's the basic handling of the gimmick. Let me show you a routine that you can use for HoverCard Plus. Okay, so here's a way that I might handle HoverCard Plus. I'll have the spectator choose a card. I kind of like to use the floating lady idea, so I'll have them choose their favorite queen out of the center of the pack. The setup with this goes as follows. I will have my gimmick, my Joker gimmick, about 3 cards down. Again, I like to have those stray cards on top. It makes the magnet a little less tight. And then I'll have my gimmick right on top of there. And then, before the trick starts, I will have 1 cover card on top of the gimmick, like that. Okay? This will be our sign card, so I'm just going to leave that out for right now. When you're spreading the deck before the trick starts, I like to have the magnet closest to me. If you have it on this side, you'll kind of see that there's a little bit of a gap there. So what I'll do is I'll say something like, here, let's do a card trick. We'll try the floating lady illusion. And I'm just spreading the deck normally to show that all these cards are, they have back designs and they all spread as normal. Then I'll turn the deck over and I'll say, let's choose our favorite lady, and I'll have them choose a queen. So in this case, they'll choose the Queen of Diamonds, and it's kind of fun to give the queen a name. So they will write the name Sally or whatever on the queen. While they're doing that, I'm going to just remove the cover card from the gimmick and bury it in the deck while everybody's signing the card. Nothing's happened yet, so there's no heat on this at all. I'll rotate the deck so that the magnet is away from me, because I'm going to be performing it up near my face here. So the magnet will be away from me, but I'll just keep my wrist killed. I'll even have my thumb over the magnet a little bit, and nothing's happened, so nobody suspects anything at this point. Just keep your wrist killed back so that gimmick is out of sight. Ask for the card back after they're done signing it, And all you have to do is just lay it on top of that gimmick, and the card will hide it. So this is the full move. There's nothing to see at all, right? So take the card back and just lay it on top of the gimmick. I like to give it with my fingernail there just a little bit of a push down so that it sticks on the double stick tape. So now you have your queen in position. Now, because we did this with the magnet facing out, all you have to do is regrip the deck here on the corners and come up here to this position. Now you can float the lady, right? She's going to float off the pack. And when you get out to here, we can pluck it out of the air. Okay. I like to do this nice little eye misdirection thing here as I pluck the card off and show it on both sides. And you'll see, I'll show you this now. Who wants to see behind? Who can blame them? Let's take a look. And I'll look at the back of this card as if I see nothing, and then I'll look over here as if I'm looking for something and rotate the card as I'm looking away. They can look at the back of this card. They can burn it pretty good, but I just kind of like to have that little bit of eye misdirection as I do this. So we'll take the card out of midair, show both sides, and then we can replace it back in midair. Now remember, I have those couple stray cards on the top of the deck, which allows me to drag a top card out from underneath that magnet, because that's just how magnets work, right? That's one of my favorite parts of the routine. It's kind of nice. You can use this card to gently let the card float back to the pack, throw it on the table, remove the card from the double stick tape as you hand it back to the spectator. You can even pick up the stray card, lay it on top of the gimmick, and spread the cards so you end nice and clean. We can talk about ditching the gimmick. Dan and Nicholas will also talk about ditching the gimmick a little bit. But before we get to them, let me talk to you a little bit about your angles. So your angles on HoverCard Plus are actually really good. They're about 120 degrees, but they're better than that because you are in complete control over your angles. There's some common sense things going on here. Don't perform it for people that are behind you or are on your extreme sides. The best part about this is that you do have some body movement control over who you're performing for and where they are. The only other thing is you want some distance between you. I can't tell you exactly how far, just as far as it doesn't feel uncomfortable for you where they're right on top of you. They need to be able to see the trick, right? So first thing is, if you perform the trick up here, this is the best part for me. I can see everybody that I'm performing for. Yes, I'm looking at the card and doing the magic here, but I can actually keep an eye on everybody that's watching the trick and do slight adjustments with my wrist to control what they're seeing. The worst angles here are on my extreme right and over here on the extreme left. Okay, this is the worst place for the angles on this effect. But let me show you how you can cover those. First of all, I'm not even concerned with anybody on my right. If I do have somebody way over there, all you got to do is use your hand to do the magic, right, and cover the gimmick. Give them a bad look at the effect. Make them want to go over here and see it properly, right? So I can just cover the gimmick with my hand here. I know that they can't see anything because they can't even see what's going on, right? So I'm using my hand to cover this exposed area on this side, right? Now on the left side, this is how I set up. If I have people in front of me, I'm mostly protecting myself from this side here. So I'm going to adjust appropriately so that nobody is on my extreme left. However, when I'm performing, why this is nice, when I have people up in front of me and I can see everybody, if I do get that creeper that's trying to come around the left side and check up underneath or anywhere over here, you can immediately just break the illusion and say, no, there is nothing to see. So right now, if you were the creeper and you're going around the left side, I'd be like, oh, no, there's nothing to see here at all. And then readjust, use that moment to reposition yourself in the crowd so that you can lay it right back in midair. So while performing hover card, keep your angles in mind, but know that you are actually in control of what everybody sees.
Hi, it's Dan Harlan here with Nicholas Lawrence to thank you so much for purchasing our collaboration, HoverCard Plus. Now, if you are familiar with HoverCard, the original one, which I introduced many, many years ago, this is an improvement in method and functionality and the ability to do lots of other things with it. It gives you a lot more control, a lot more possibilities. So the first thing that we will talk about is the basic gimmick. The gimmick itself hasn't changed from the original one, but Nicholas and I have both added our own touches to it. So let's take a quick look at it here. This is the gimmick itself is the plastic rectangle here. That's what causes all of the floating action to happen. So basically you've got a box that's open on the top and the bottom so that the sides can easily move like that. What it creates is what's known as a parallel hinge, so that the floating part stays parallel to the attachment throughout the entire rotation of the floating. Now, in the original version of HoverCard, out here was an entire card and the back part of the gimmick was attached to the base. In this version, we have a base that is magnetic. So there's a magnetic attachment, and the card then floats in a very, very similar way to the original one. So that magnetic idea was something that I talked to Nicholas about. I brought it to him. It's the way that I originally wanted this gimmick to be. When I first envisioned it many, many years ago, I actually made myself a deck of cards that had a pretty thick magnet. It was about a quarter of the deck, and that was the attachment, and that's the way that I performed it. The problem was you had to reserve a block of cards out of your deck just to perform the floating effect. So, many, many years went by and magnets have become much, much thinner and much stronger. So now is the time to go back to doing that. But then after I brought you the idea of the magnetic attachment, then you had some contributions to it. So I want you to tell everybody what you then did with it.
Well, starting from what you seen Dan talking about here, the detachableness, which was great, but what I thought would be even better is if it could be any card signed, so they can watch your signature, levitate, and go right back down and hand it out immediately. I just felt that those were very necessary for it to be a true plus.
Yeah.
So that's basically what I designed here. So between the two of us, we have
We've gotten everything that everybody ever asked for in the HoverCard gimmick, because what Nicholas did was he just naturally gravitated toward what everybody always was asking me about. Can you do it with a signed card? Can you give the card away as a souvenir at the end to show that it's normal? Can you do it with any deck of cards? And we'll get into that and show you how you can use any deck of cards to do it as well. So the first step was to take away the single card from the front and instead miniaturize the gimmick so that it could be attached to any card by using that double stick tape. So let's just go about the basic handling, which really I shouldn't say it's the basic. This is the entire handling, what you would typically do with it if you want to use all of the functionality of it. All right, so Nicholas, why don't you show everybody the handling for what we're going to be basically calling the basic routine that has all the functionality, but it's the way that they would do it if they're going to have cards signed and make that card float. Yeah.
All right, so very simple. You just have them select any card.
Yep, sure. Okay.
Go ahead and just sign the card.
Got my marker right here. Okay. There you
Just
go.
going to take the card back, let it dry, place it on top of the pack, just like this. Show there's nothing inside the hands. And basically, you just allow the card just to slowly float off the deck. Just like the original. But this is where it gets a little bit different, when you can just pluck the card right out of the air.
Yeah.
Show both sides of the card, and then just place it right back into the air and allow it just to slowly float back down to the pack. Just like that. And then, of course, you can just hand that right out.
Yeah. And that's it, and they can examine the whole thing. So, that's really just a great addition to it in every possible way. A card that they've already handled. Basically, they've examined it by handling it, stays in view the whole time, floats, and then is given back to them. So go over where everything starts out, show everybody how they get into the position for it.
All right, so here's the gimmick, the two-piece gimmick. You're just going to have this at the bottom of the deck. Now, naturally, having it inside the case or inside your pocket, you're going to come out and the tape that's on there is going to stick to this bottom card. I've been using this one, so it's not as tacky, but you'll learn how to use it as you go on.
Yeah, and it doesn't need to have full stickiness. As a matter of fact, first time you put double stick tape on something like this, you want to touch it a few times to lower that tack. If you've ever worked with it, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Right.
I will just interject one thing here that I've found that if you're going to use this on the bottom of the cards, and it's always going to be like that, is a great thing that you can do, and that is that you take your joker and you put a joker on the bottom, and I know I saw them in here. So you would take your joker, you put it on the bottom, but what you get is the backing that you would have on any kind of stickers, whether they're shipping labels or anything like that.
So good.
Yeah, it's the backing for it. You cut out a very small piece of that that's just bigger than the piece of tape that you're going to use, and you glue that into the center of the joker. So obviously there will be something there if people see it, but they're not going to see that. They're not going to see the gimmick. But that actually has the release on it, so it doesn't matter how sticky your tape is, it will never stick to the bottom card. And then when you're ready to clean everything up, all you have to do is get rid of the joker and the gimmick at the same time.
Yeah. So yeah, that is a great aid. If you are having trouble with it, that is an awesome aid for that. Yeah. But so if you aren't using that, like I said, naturally it might already stick to the gimmick. So what I like to do is even before you do the trick, just kind of go like this and riffle up the pack of the cards, and it'll just naturally separate. Once it separates, I just keep a little break, just like that, and then just have them take a card.
Pick any card from anywhere.
Yep. Once they're signing the card, this gives you the slight misdirection, though it's not really needed. You're just going to cut this card to the top. Now you can either do that, or you can just start cutting through the cards like this. And then whenever you're ready, just swing cut the gimmick to the top.
Yep.
From here, what I like to do is just take my thumb and place it on the top of the gimmick as you're taking back the card. Just like this, and you just kind of wrist kill, or even just let your hand just relax on the side, right? From here, you're going to do is take the card, place it on top of the pack. Now, either with the finger, like this, as you see I'm doing here, just pressing, that's going to allow the card to stick to the gimmick while you're showing the hands clean. Or, let's say you've already been performing this 10 times throughout the night, it's losing its stickiness. I like to place my thumb on top, give it a nice squeeze. Okay? Once you're here, it really is so simple. As long as you know that the magnets are right here, okay, real close to your body, and not on the other side, all you do is slowly tip your hand forward, but you don't want to be perfectly parallel like this. I like to actually tip it down just a little bit.
Right. I'll talk a little bit more about that when I show you the technique.
You know much more about it, sure. Many years of experience. But once I'm here in this position, what I like to do is just hold a normal mechanics grip, like that, slight angle down, and just start to tip it forward. Okay, you never really want it to jump out like that, but once it does start to go, very slowly, like this, and it gets to the desired lift that you like, all you're going to be doing here is gripping the gimmick and the card just like that.
Now that noise was
that
you.
Was me, by the way. That was not
Don't make that noise when you do it.
I don't know why I do that. I like to use sound effects when I do magic, but just to explain to you guys, that's the motion. It's just a plucking of it right off. So once it gets to here, you're just going to pluck it. I like to then rotate my wrist, just kind of show the deck nice and fair, come up, and basically rotate this around. I'm going to show you step by step how to do this.
Yeah,
what you're doing is just cleanly showing
Yeah.
the back of the card. So what you're doing is from here, you're going to then rotate your finger around to here.
Turn a little bit.
Okay?
Yeah, there you go.
Right. So from here, you're just going to go ahead and rotate the finger around like this, releasing the thumb. So basically, these two fingers are holding the gimmick and the card, and your thumb is now going to go to the front as you rotate this around like this. So now you can see your finger covers everything, right? Once you're here, you can either continue to rotate around or go back. Either way, but you're now in this position. So now what you have to do is reclip like this. This seems like a lot, but this goes by very fast as you see me just do it. Now you can actually use your thumb to get the gimmick to pop back up, get back into position just as you plucked it out of the air. So now you can place it back into the air. Just an important tip here, we are dealing with magnets, so they do make sound, but you can eliminate that completely by just adding a little bit of tension to this. You don't want it flopping in the wind, just a little bit of tension, so that way you can just slowly make contact and let it go. Just like that. So now that it's in the middle of the air, all you're going to do is reverse the process and just basically kind of rocking your wrist downward, just like this. it allows it just to go slowly back to the pack. From here, I just give it a little spread, just showing it very fair, very clean. Then what you're going to do is just kind of grip the card like this, right? Very slowly, lift it up, and hand it out.
Yeah, now when you're doing that, when you're doing the peeling off, let's say you're working with kind of new tape that's a little stickier, do you have to be careful to try to get in between the card and the gimmick just to kind of hold the gimmick in place?
You don't actually have to, like with normal 2 cards, but because it's so small, you really can't do that. But what you want to do is just kind of, if it's really sticky, just very slowly peel it up like that.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Good.
But with my experience, it hasn't been very loud at all. So in any performing atmosphere, you should be fine.
Yeah, terrific. Now, that I think is absolutely fantastic as the basic routine of it. It gets you both in and out of it very nicely. It puts all of the focus on that floating card and on the signed card. So there's plenty of opportunity for you then to return that gimmick to the bottom. Everybody's looking over there. It's a simple matter for you to get it back down to the bottom of the deck like that, so you look clean again. What I like to do in that case is not to run, because nobody is chasing the deck. They're looking at the card. They don't think there's anything special about the deck. I would just turn to somebody else and start going into a trick before I'd even think about ditching that gimmick. I do it more on the offbeat then.
100%.
If I have to go back to my pocket for the pen so that they can now sign a card, it's better than trying to get rid of it quickly. Because if you try to get rid of it too quickly, that's exactly when they're looking for it.
Right.
If you act like it's not there, it's not there. Now, you did have a really nice touch. This is the thing that I wanted to talk about, how this gives you so much more flexibility. You had a really nice touch by just adding 1 extra card.
Yes.
So show everybody that, and then I'll talk a little bit more about other things.
All right, so everything, the handling is completely the same, but the only difference here is because this is magnetic, you can actually place a card, or even 2 cards, in between the gimmick and its base. But we'll just use 1 card just for an example. So if this is all set up here, and they've just signed their card, so here it is, exact same thing, you're going to return it back to the deck, but this time, which is really cool, once you get very comfortable with the gimmick, once you start to get it to levitate, is you can actually remove a card from underneath.
It does look so
right? So it makes it look
so
extra impossible.
Good. Yeah.
And then what I like to do is take this card as like a little fan and just allow it to go back down. Now, of course, you can do the detach before or after you do that. Make this a multi-phase routine. But that's just a really nice touch that just solidifies the illusion that there's nothing behind it. It's truly floating.
Yeah. Absolutely love that. And that is what alludes, at least, to what I was talking about earlier, where you can do this with any deck of cards now, which I think is so fantastic. So the basic idea, if you haven't figured it out yet, is that since you have a base and a gimmick, all you have to do is put whatever deck of cards you're using, you just attach that back above this back, because the magnet will still work through them. So that's it to change out your gimmick for one that matches any deck of cards at all. And you can do it permanently if you want to, if you know you're always going to use that same deck, or you can use double stick tape here as well. You put on a different back, and now you've got a deck that all has different backs. You've changed the base over. Now this part, you won't have to worry about it as much, because obviously they're not going to see that while you're necktying it. If your deck is drastically different from this, if you are using, for example, if you use a blue deck and you've got a red gimmick like this, you can also replace that part and then put another piece of stickiness on it. You've got to be aware that every time you add some weight to this gimmick, it does affect a little bit how much it's going to come out, how it's going to float. More weight swings out more quickly, less weight slowly. But it just makes it now possible so that you can customize it to your own needs, which I think is just so fantastic.
It really is.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So that adds all that functionality to it, which I think is so fantastic. Now, in addition to that, let's say that you're a little bit concerned about using the gimmick in this way and attaching and detaching the card. So it is possible for you to go back to a more standard presentation that I used with the original introduction of Hover Card while you work your way up to working with a signed card. And it's pretty simple to explain it to you. You're going to need a duplicate card. So I don't think we have 2 jokers in here. But what I'm going to do is, good, we have 2 jokers. So it's going to be easier for you to understand this so that you know which one is which card, but you would use exact duplicates for this. And one of them you're going to permanently attach to this. So you would use just stronger double stick tape. So that's going to be your floating card, and you stick it on to there. Now you're going to take that gimmick with the card stuck in place and put it on the bottom of the deck turned the opposite way. Then, instead of having somebody select a card and sign it, you just introduce that you've got, this special card. You'd like them to take a look at it. They examine that card, and you place it on the top of the deck like this. Then as your hand comes over to square the deck, you turn the whole thing over as you get into position. Now, the position that I use for the floating is a little bit different. I think of this as a stage effect done in miniature. So what I do is I hold this pose, which I think of as the toothpaste commercial pose. So you've got the deck of cards held like the toothpaste here up near your face, and you're only holding it at those extreme corners. To get into that position is actually pretty easy to do. So if you rotate the whole deck and hold it here so that the magnets are up near your thumb, then turn the deck over like this, now you're in position. So you show this card, you square and bring it up into this position. Then you're going to slide your thumb and middle and index finger down to here. That card's now loose. You just rotate the whole thing around so it gets up into this position. The reason I like to do this is because sometimes when you're performing hover card, you have to get the audience into the right place. This does have angles like a stage illusion. The angles are pretty good. They're about 120 degrees from the attachment to the outside because it is going across the corners, the extreme diagonals of the card. But if you're too close to the audience, they might try to peek around the sides. So what you want to do is you want to get everybody to stay in one place, and then you take a step back and you check the air currents, and you say, as long as no one moves, I think this will work. And at least that's what I say. Now, you already get it to start floating. It's already starting to detach from this. And this is the thing I wanted to talk about, how you can really control the floating of it. If you get into a position where you're holding the deck and the card is already released, then simply by tilting it forward, making sure that the gimmick itself is angling downward, you simply tilt the deck forward like this. That releases the card. So it can only go out as far as the arm can swing. If it's too horizontal and you tilted it forward, it would pop all the way out quickly. So if you have it more vertical like this and you tilt it forward, then by rotating your hand without adding any other tilt to it, by rotating your hand, that's what causes it to float further. So it's this rotation, and you can do that at whatever speed you want to. But if you watch it with this hand in place, you tilt forward, it comes off, and then it floats over, closer and closer and closer. And then this is the way that I like to detach it, is to grab it as it's floating and continue to pull it away from the deck like that. That puts the gimmick into that position. I throw my index finger over it, I spin it around like this. So it's the same thing, spin it around like that. The less focus on the back of this card, the better. Then I get my thumb under there and I push these magnets out. Now the way that I reattach it, you can just come straight in. As long as you've got a lot of tension on this, you can go straight in and it won't make any noise at all. But what I like to do is I like to go past the deck and rub the magnets until they attach like this, and then pull the card down to the corner. So it looks like this. So it looks like you're simply placing the card onto the corner of the deck, and it stays there. Then it floats back, and all you're doing is tilting your hand back opposite direction until it gets vertical. You tilt all the way around, and then as you square the cards, you turn them over and deal off that single card, and that puts the gimmick back onto the bottom. The card can be examined. Obviously, can't be signed. I love the addition of being able to sign it. That, I think, is the best thing. So if you get worked up to the point where you can do all of the other moves with necktying the deck and getting it attached and detaching it, you're better off doing the signed version. But in the meantime, you can also go back to the standard handling.
Start though,
yeah.
Just to get comfortable.
Get comfortable with the floating. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
It's the best part of the trick is the floating, but all of the other parts, being able to detach it, being able to have it signed, and being able to do it with any deck of cards, are really great additions to this. Now, there's one other thing that I was playing around with earlier today, because now that we have this, we have a modular gimmick, which I think is absolutely great, because you can take this, you can take the base, You can take the gimmick, you can take either piece and use them separately. So if you have other magnets, you can attach this to something else, use it to float something else. So what I was playing with today is this. All you have to do is borrow a dollar bill from somebody. And if you can justify it using the money with the cards, then you get into that position and attach the dollar bill. And I'm going to attach it so it's going to float face up. You attach it in the same position that you would a card. Make sure you go up to that corner all the way, and then press it. Then get into the same position that you would want to. Now I'm going to float it down here just so you can get a feel for it. And it will float away from the deck in the same way. And it looks just fantastic because it's no longer associated with the cards, and then you can pluck it out of the air. The same idea. Put the cards down and detach that gimmick. And that can be palmed away, and now you've got the ability to float lots of different objects. You could apply it to money, credit cards, let your imagination run wild and try to figure out how you want to use it.
And you could even put this base inside of your wallet if it's thin enough.
Yeah.
And just do the bill right on your wallet.
Right on your wallet.
Another great idea that's exactly the same, really, that our friend Brandon Gerald came up with is you could put the cards inside of the box and levitate the card off of the box.
Yeah, sure.
And why I like that is it's even cleaner because there's only two things to look at, the box and the card. And it really just gives you all the time in the world to get rid of that small little gimmick, which we all know we can just finger palm with ease.
Now there was another, and this will be the last thing we tell you, and then you're off and running to have some fun with your gimmick. There was one other cleanup that I really, really loved. There was one thing that I wanted to talk about the base really quickly. If you happen to lose the magnets on the base, it's always going to be in the lower right corner, so you only have a couple of places to check. So it's pretty simple to just check those places until it reattaches itself. Just something so that you can keep it in mind what to do with it. But there was the other cleanup, which was done with the sign card that I really, really love.
Spread, right?
The spread, yeah. And if you will show that, this is for anybody that is looking to do it with a little less move at the end and make the deck look completely clean.
Sure. So once you've already done the levitation and it's come back down, what's really cool is you don't actually have to separate it off the gimmick. In that moment, you can actually take your time with it, which is pretty cool. You can actually just take the card and the detachable gimmick off as one, just like this. So now you can actually just kind of show everything one more time. And as you come back to the deck, all you're going to do is take the gimmick card, the base, and just slide it between the other gimmick. So in real speed, it would just look like this. Just take off the card, show both sides, and just start counting through the cards like this. But what you're doing is just taking this gimmick and loading it right underneath the actual base. So that way, this card is completely clean. You can just hand this out very smoothly.
Right. Once that squares under the base, the magnets reattach on the opposite side.
Yep. Now you can just kind of count through the cards and just very cleanly hand out that card, just like that.
Yeah. And I love that. Really, any way to clean that up, because again, all the heat's going to be on that card and not on the deck, whichever way feels more comfortable for you. So I just want to thank Nicholas for contributing to this, because it's finally the vision that I had many, many years ago and now realized, so that you can enjoy it. And I hope your audiences love it as much as we do.
Sure.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Okay, so we're here with Nicholas Lawrence, the co-creator of the gimmick with Dan Harlan, and Nicholas is going to take us, we're going to break this gimmick down so you can see exactly how it's constructed. So if anything goes wrong with it, you can fix it at home. And we're also going to learn how you can customize this to any deck of cards. So Nicholas, tell us what is going on with this thing.
Definitely. All right. Well, we've already got pretty much a close-up, so you guys know how this works. I'm going to teach you two things quickly. One, how to do it with any custom deck so that you can show both sides of the card during your performance, and also just a little quick thing which you can use any deck, but you just can't show the back side of the card. So that's what I'm going to do first. It's really simple. All you're going to do is just detach your gimmick like this, and basically taking any card from any deck that you prefer to use, you're going to change the base. Okay, so this is real simple. You're going to take a little bit of crazy glue, and that's just how I do it. It's pretty simple, but I just do 4 dots, just like that, in like a diamond orientation, all right? So one at the top, the bottom, the left, and the right. All right, so now that you've got your glue on there, it's as simple as this. Just take any card, place it on there, like that, and then put it onto a flat surface and just press gently, right? Making sure it just stays nice and square. And once you've done that, you're all set. Okay, now because this is a joker, this joker can pretty much blend in with any pack as laymen are concerned. But if you want to get, extra, just extra to detail here, you could take another card, the actual joker, and put on the back. It is going to make your base thicker, but again, it's not needed. But anyway, once you've done that, now you can have this gimmick, right? And if you go to the routine section, you'll see this starts at the bottom of the deck, and that they never see this part of the gimmick anyway. It's never seen. So that way, when you do perform this effect, you don't have to worry about this. But like I said before, you're not going to be able to show the back side of the card. So just a quick little run through. Once you start to levitate the card, you know the moment where you can do this and turn it over. Obviously, you can't do it with this setup, but if it's important to you, just keep following along and we'll teach you guys a second setup. But very simple.
Yeah, so no, that's cool. So it's just, you can't turn the card completely around.
Right.
But yeah, that's fine.
You can still do the entire routine.
Yeah. And the other thing to note too is because you're pasting a card on the back side of that gimmick, this is magnetic, so it's just going to go through, the thickness of the card.
And the great thing is this can actually still handle another card in between.
Yeah, I think you can probably do another one as well.
Right, so if you want to do that convincer where you're pulling the card, it'll still work perfectly. So that was the simple modification so that you can use any deck cards. Now we're going to go into the more detailed version using any deck cards. Now you can show both sides while performing. So what you're going to need is a joker from your custom deck, just a regular card, and a double backer, which is pretty standard with any custom deck. All right. First things first, you're going to take the gimmick that you received, all right, and just remove this piece here, put it off to the side, and you're just going to open up this gimmick, this base, which is really just two cards glued together, all right, with some magnets inside. All right. Now, when you do this, you can just kind of notice the orientation where this is on the joker, and you'll see that it's on the lower right-hand corner, following the border as a guide, right? So you can just take your joker, and basically you're just kind of imitating what we've already built for you guys. So just go ahead and remove the magnets like this, and they should just stay together because it is two separate magnets. That is how this works. Gives it a stronger bond, or a stronger magnetic connection, should I say. All right, you're going to take those two, take one dot of glue, again putting it in the lower right-hand corner, just like that, one small dot. And again, very important, it's just matching the polarity of the gimmick. So this is going to be sticking to the card like this, going downward. So just take these magnets and stick them, just like that. Now you know that this is going to be going down like this. So you can take the magnets back off and place them down, just lining it up with the border. All right, it's very simple, but it is important. Just make sure your polarity is right because you're going to have to take apart the gimmick and start all over again. So once you got that, real simple, you're going to put a few more drops of glue here, one on the magnet, one on the top of the card center, and one on the bottom of the card center, just like that. Just real simple, 3 dots of glue. Now you can take just any card from the deck and put it, go in the same direction as the joker, just like this, square it up. And then just remember where the magnets are so you can just squeeze and let the glue dry. Okay, just on the glue where you put on the magnets. Once you feel confident that's dry, you can sit on a flat surface and just press down on the other 2 dots of glue. All right, now you've successfully made your completely custom base. All right, now we can move on to the piece that actually attaches. And as you can see, this attaches just like the simple version we just taught. But now we're going to teach how to show both sides. So this is where this gets important. You're going to now take off the piece that's attached to the parallel hinge, just like this. This will pop right off.
Yeah, because that's just double stick tape, right?
It's just double stick tape, right.
I was so scared the first time I pulled it off, but it really there's nothing to be scared about.
Right. Yeah, it's really easy, comes right off, and really easy to replace as well. So we'll just go ahead and just put this off to the side and take one more little piece of double stick tape and just put it right on top of the tape that comes with it, just to give you a nice fresh stickiness, right? So it's really going to make sure it bonds. All right, just go ahead and line that up. Very easy stuff. And then just an important note here, guys, don't trim too close to the parallel hinge. If you do, you're going to cut through it and it's going to be destroyed. It will not work. If you really like the trick, you're going to have to buy another one. So be careful. So just go ahead and just trim off the excess tape.
Don't cut my gimmick, right?
Yeah, right. This is the one Nick's been using. So. All right, now that you got this guy, it's real simple. Just attach it to where the magnet goes, like that. And now this is where the double backer comes into play. What you're gonna need is a pair of scissors. And depending on the design, it really doesn't matter. Obviously with bicycle, we used a rectangle because that's the natural design of the deck. With this, you're just going to have to find something that's similar. Just at first glance, what I see here is I would use the steeplechase banners. And it's basically going to turn out to be about a square shape. So I just cut like this and get both those banners just like that. So you're going to end up with a square. Now you guys are going to see why this is important in a second, or you already will know if you're performing with the bicycle version, so that you can show both sides. It's just a really nice subtlety, showing that there's just nothing connected to the cards. So this is a really cool thing here. Once you've done this, now you can take the gimmick that you've just prepared and the piece, and you're just going to line it up right on that card, right where it would be. Okay, it doesn't need to be perfect, but as close as you can get it. Okay, just like that, and just press. Okay. Now, the gimmick is definitely complete, you're ready to go, but what we do recommend, because this is double stick tape, the warmth from your hand is actually warming up the glue. So if you go to perform this, this might just pop right off, but it's guaranteed to not pop off once you've actually pressed this and just let it sit for 5 minutes, just like in room temperature, and it really cures the glue, the adhesive. All right, so once you're here, you are ready to pretty much perform it. Again, you do need a little bit of double stick tape, you guys probably already know that. But this little piece, just a little square, is going to get stuck right in the center of that gimmick. Just like that. And now if you just touch it a little bit, it's not going to be too sticky. We do cover this, but just a little tip just to remember. But once this is all done, you're ready to perform with your favorite custom deck. So that's pretty much it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And if you don't want to go through all of that, of course, you could still use a red bicycle base in this deck. Just have it a few cards down.
Right.
And just don't spread over to it.
Very
But
true, yeah.
I'm so happy that you were here to show us, like, to actually go through and dig through this thing to show us the innards.
You know, for a lot of people it is really important, and I know a lot of people only use custom decks.
Right.
So it just really gives you the cleanest version of HoverCard Plus. So we really wanted to include that.
Cool.
Yeah, totally.